So I'm back at this again. Um, Figured I'd tell you a little bit about like what happened in Tennessee. Excuse me. So, I have had my eyes opened up to this thing that some people are aware of, and I do believe that there's people out there that are very aware of it. And there's like people that are very aware of it that aren't aware of it. It's frustrating, but living in the city, there's a lot of negative energy here. Living in certain places with certain people, there's even more. I was in this space that is just kind of, I can control it a little bit better now, but it's just like too much. So this girl takes it upon herself, is like, hey, we're gonna go out of town for, a few days or whatever, like mini vacation, we needed a break. And I was gonna get to meet her best friend a little bit more, and her best friend's boyfriend, and so on and so forth. And they were, I didn't really know that they were, I guess you'd say, spiritual, or I didn't know, I don't even know if they are spiritual. All I know is when I got there and they started telling me about the house, well, let me back up a little bit. So this girl, she liked to listen, like most women like to listen to the, the murder mystery, fucking cold case files and shit like that. And I was like getting like subliminal, it's like other messages and stuff, but she made me aware of, like there's certain situations and stuff that, happen where, parents kill their kids and commit suicide and stuff like that, and we all believe that they're stuck in this limbo place. And, if given the ability to free these lost souls from mistakes that they made in a third dimensional plane that seemed to be pretty brutal, but pretty accurate as far as like the calculations go. If given the opportunity to free these souls and release the suffering, it's kind of like, I was like, I'd do that. I'd totally do that, So I started opening up myself to like maybe do that, and then other shit going on and whatnot with my life and her life and whatever. So she decides, or we decide to go on this vacation. So we're gonna stay at a friend's house the first night, and we go out there and they have a graveyard in their backyard, which is like whatever, I've lived behind a graveyard before, it ain't no thing. It's just, a bunch of dead people buried outside or whatever, a bunch of food for the earthworms, or however you want to look at it. And we go out there and I meet him and everything's good. I met him one other time, and I was kind of there, but not there. I was still pretty much, myself. We go out there, and I got a graveyard out back, and then they tell me about having, this house they used to belong to a witch and a warlock, and the warlock died in the house, and like there's a pentagram painted on the floor and all kinds of stuff. It's like interesting to me, not something to be afraid of, because we're not talking about, human sacrifice or anything. We're talking about a spirituality that a lot of people are unaware of. So being you know, openly receptive to whatever can get in. It was an interesting experience. I didn't really get much sleep that night. I mean, I slept, but it was like I wasn't asleep. It was like my conscious was aware while my body rested, but it seemed like as though when I got up, I wasn't rested because of my mental state. But the night before, we got there and we was all bullshitting, and they're talking about Ed Crowley, and I was like, you know, I've heard the name, don't know exactly what he does or what he's significant of or whatever, because I never got curious enough to go down that route. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, here, I got a book. So he hands me this book, and I open it up and I start reading it. And as I'm reading it and they're talking in the background and stuff, it's like the words that I were reading didn't make sense, but subconsciously it was like opening a door. I finally made it home. It was like overwhelming type thing, and it's weird because it's I don't know if it was my emotion or my feeling that felt it, or if it was a soul that used my body to feel emotion again that they wasn't able to feel. But it got me, you know, it still got me interested. So the next morning, you know, we get up and we go to Tennessee, and we get there, and I'm kind of half in and half out. I'm fully conscious, I'm fully aware of some of the things that I'm doing, but it's like I'm playing in a different field now. So I have to be careful on how I do what I do, because it comes across weird, comes across embarrassing to be with somebody that kind of just, you know, authentically is trying to be themselves, and ultimately it's all out of love and understanding. You know, it's like healing generational trauma that you didn't know was there type shit. I was just trying to be better me, myself, never trying to be anybody else. So anyway, we find our way down there. We go to Jacksboro, Tennessee, to Norris Lake, and there's this house. It's a lake house, but there's this set of stairs, man. It's just fucking huge set of stairs to get down to the lake, but it goes right up to like the patio of the back door. They got a boat, you know, we go out on the boat and everything, and like there's some stuff that happened on the boat that is interesting, and that's where it kind of all took a turn. We ended up arguing about something, me and her, and I can't even recollect what we was arguing about, but I felt like this frequency when we was on the boat, it was like tuned me in. My arm shot up and it was like whoop, and then I was just kind of like allowing whatever to happen, and then she looked at me and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't even know, you know. It's like trying to hide it, but I felt almost as if I was being controlled, you know, free willingly, kind of just let it happen. And it was interesting. But then I think we went to dinner or something. I don't even remember going to dinner. They saying that I was acting, you know, I was fucking, give you an example. They said I was saying that I was conducting like an orchestra, or conducting the weather, conducting the wind, or something with a fish stick or something. I don't know, weird, right? But oh, so dangerous. I'm gonna stab you with a fish stick. But anyway, you know, so I don't even know none of this yet. I don't know none of this. And so, we're there. We go back to bed, because I guess I'm acting weird or something. I'm just not. I mean, to me, it was kind of like a playful thing. It was like childlike, and so I was trying to play with it and everything. And we went to bed, and the same thing. I felt like I didn't like fully sleep. Like my mentality was running, but my body was trying to rest. It was like an excitement, like a kid before Christmas. And then I think it was the next day. Say, I don't even know about the days, because it wasn't until like a long time after that I realized that I was missing like a day and a half of consciousness. Like I blacked out. I was still functioning, but I still don't know how to explain it. So, now mind you, no drugs. And I started doing and saying some things that were not me, things that like devastate me if somebody else says something to somebody else type shit. Like, why would you say something like that to somebody? That is an awful thing to say. Now, mind you, I don't even know that I'm saying this shit. So she ends up calling. She's like, I'm gonna call the cops or whatever. And I was like, to my knowledge, I'm not doing anything illegal. And I'm like, fuck it, call the cops. I do remember saying call the cops, but I didn't. I was in an unknown area, and this goes way back to like. It was like the solstice of like when it was like the Bethlehem Star or something like that. You can research it. It was about 4 years ago or something like that. Let's say it was in 20, maybe 21, but only happens every so many years. They call it a end of a biblical generation stuff, but that's another story. Back to this one, she calls a friend, and I know she calls a friend, but I don't remember the conversation. So when I came back, my friend, he ignored me because, not ignored me, he avoided me, and I couldn't understand why. I was like, I don't understand. I was like, I felt like I was dying. Like every time that it was happening, it was like, damn, I think I died again. It's a weird feeling to feel like you died again when you have a conception of death, of being a certain thing, of like not existing in a body anymore. So if this thing exists in a body temporarily and something happens, physically damaging or emotionally damaging or something, it's kind of like, you're like, oh no, you gotta get out, man. You fucked up, dude. You gotta get out. So anyway, so she calls and she says, I don't know whether I need the police officers or the paramedics. And it's like, well, the cops will get there quicker. Now, mind you, I ain't got no weapons. I ain't got no, I'm not on drugs or anything, but I am acting a lot different. So it was like when I would go up these stairs, I would have the ability to remember what it was that I was doing. But if I went down these stairs, it was fragmented. Like there would be bits and pieces that I could kind of put together. And we're talking about an elevation of, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 feet. And that's from the back patio to the street. And So I was like, they was like, all right, the cops will get there quicker, so they send the cops. So the cops come out there, I'm like, all right, fuck it, call the cops, I'll go wait for them. I didn't know what else to do. It seemed pretty logical. I was lost at this point. So a cop comes out, and I was like, hey, man. He's like, what's the problem? I said, me and her are arguing. I said, I don't know what else to do. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt nobody else. And I'm willing to go to jail if I have to. Pretty cut and dry. There's one guy. And then, she's crying, which is totally understandable. She don't know what the fuck's going on. She just thinks that I'm being mean type thing, and I'm really not a mean person. If I'm being mean, there's something that I'm not understanding or something, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so I go to court, or I go up in the road. I meet this officer. I'm like, look, man, check it out. I ain't got no weapons or nothing. Here's my ID, from Indiana, so on and so forth. I don't have my phone or nothing. I'm just, I'm okay to go to jail, but I haven't done anything illegal. And he asked me, are you on drugs? I'm like, no, man, I ain't on drugs. And he asked her, is he on drugs? And apparently they searched everything in my bags and went through all my stuff to make sure that I wasn't on drugs, and I wasn't on drugs. And then these two females pull up. Now, mind you, and I'm only going to, state the obvious, but all three of them were overweight, and if I didn't want to get arrested, there would have been no way that I would have got arrested, because they wouldn't have been able to catch me. I was in the fucking woods. There was plenty of opportunity to run, but I had already told the guy I was willing to go to jail. So these two females get out while I'm talking to this guy, and I'm trying to explain to him duality before these girls get here, and emotion, and I think what I'm trying to explain to him is astral projection, but I still don't exactly understand it, so I don't want to say it's that, but I was explaining things to him, and they might have seemed outlandish because I didn't know how to explain it. And then these two females pull up, and one is like, she's cute, she's wearing a mask, but you can tell, she's a female. She probably has a husband or a boyfriend or something. I may be wrong. It's non-judgmental or whatever, but the other one looked like a dude. She might have had a girlfriend, she might have had a boyfriend, she might have had, I don't know, but when I was explaining masculine, feminine, and I pointed to this girl, I said, this is feminine and that's masculine. And the cop got upset. Like, you could just kind of like, rolled her eyes and was like, this motherfucker right here, I'm gonna beat your ass type shit. And I was like, no, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Obviously it's how you want to fucking look, so it should come across as a fucking compliment, you would think. But no, people are so fucking egotistically driven and power driven. You put fucking power of authority in the wrong person's hands and you get America, if you know what I mean. And this goes down on the smaller scales. So anyway, so I'm still trying to talk to him or whatever, and he's like, all right, I've heard enough. He's like, turn around, put your hands behind your back. Now, mind you, he thinks I'm on drugs. To my understanding, a logical thing to do with somebody you think's on drugs is call a paramedic out. Or at least be seen by some sort of fucking psychiatric person or something. It made sense to me that that's the logic of what should have happened. But that's not what happened. So he's like, all right, turn around, put your hands behind your back. So I do. And he grabs my wrist like they do, and then he just cranked on my arm really hard, caused me to kind of like, I fucked up my shoulder. I already had a bad shoulder, so I'm like, and because I said, that was his ability to believe that I was resisting arrest. Now, I think this energy came from the female. Well, he hurt your feelings. I'll take care of this for you, my dear. And he fucking picked me up and body slammed me, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on right now? Fuck me up. Slammed me right on my elbow. Slammed me so hard my shoes came off. And the only thing at that point I could do was laugh. I was like, man, I know what George Floyd feels like. And from that point on, I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, all right, I'm going to ride this out on the other side of it and see what happens. Because for some reason, I felt like I was supposed to go to jail. And I told this girl that, and it's a weird thing. But so I go to, I get, handcuffed, put back in the car, and they just start treating me like shit, like a fucking dog, like an animal, worse than what you would treat an animal. And talking shit about me. And there's certain things that I noticed that were kind of like on the other side of like the subconscious level, kind of like identifying something, you know what I mean? And so we get to jail, and I'm just like, whatever, They throw me in this drunk tank. Nobody comes to look at me. Nobody gives me a breathalyzer test, has me piss in a cup, nothing. I'm in there, and I'm just kind of like, what, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm looking at the camera. I'm like, am I supposed to talk to this camera or what? I don't even know what I'm arrested for or nothing. So the one of the officers comes over and asks me what I'm in there for, and I'm like, I don't have any idea. And she comes back later and says, arrested for public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. And I was just like, okay, which kind of blew my mind. So I was in there. They take me out. No, the weird thing is when I was in there, I identified this energy of these 4 dudes that I had tattooed that were military. And I also identified one of the females as somebody I knew. Not that I was really close with, but that was in close connection to the people that I knew, and I knew of her. And she resembled her. It was kind of like she knew, so it was kind of like this other mid like veil that I was in and shit. And so anyway, they put me in jail, and then they moved me over to Gen Pop, which is weird. It was this room. I got locked up with this other dude, and I stepped on his bunk with my shoes. It was a whole ordeal, and I'm just like, my bad. I was so tired. Like I said, I hadn't like got rest. I was interested in whatever this energy was that I was feeling. And so I passed out in there. I don't know, I felt safe in there, I guess. But apparently I was snoring. A dude kept waking me up. And he's like, man, you gotta quit snoring, man. You're so fucking loud. I'm like, bro, I wish I could. My old lady wishes I could too. But anyway, so I get arrested, and then the next day I get out. And it was very weird. I've been in jail, and I've been arrested and processed and let go and all that shit. But there was nothing like what happened to me. I felt like almost like it was like they made a mistake, and they wanted to get me out of there as fast as possible. They didn't give me my wallet back. They didn't give me none of my shit back. They just kind of like booted me out the door. And I was like, now, you're in a fucking unfamiliar territory. You're in Tennessee. You ain't got a phone. You ain't got no ID or nothing. Let's see how you get back home now. And I was just like, fuck, man. I was like, all right, So now they kicked me out of jail, and I'm in this, I don't know, psychotic state, or this episode that they call it, or whatever, but I'm just there. So now I gotta find a phone, try to call somebody, see how the fuck I'm supposed to start this process of getting back home. A 5-hour drive away. And when I finally found a gas station, I was walking across the street to this gas station, and right behind me, a car accident happened. And me being the person I am, I'm first on scene type shit. Like, if something bad happened, I'm there. I'm trying to help immediately. I could tell you a story about a dude drowning in a pond. That's a whole different story. I'll tell you about that later. But so I run over there, to like check, make sure everybody's all right. And one car, gets spun around. This chick's screaming. She's an older chick. I'm like, oh goodness, are you okay? And the other one kind of rolls down into this little ravine. I think he broke his foot. He was driving a truck. And when you witness an accident, they want you to stick around, give a statement or whatever. And ambulance comes out and everything. I'm standing on one side of this ambulance, and I step over or whatever, and just kind of waiting for police to come get a statement or whatever. And I look over and I see that dude just slam me, and he don't see me. And I was like, this motherfucker here, So I just crossed my arms and kind of gave him a disappointed look, like, man, what'd you do all that for, And he looked at me, he caught eyes with me, and it was like a deer in the headlights, man. It was just like, oh, fuck. So I immediately walked over to him. And he's standing there like, oh shit, what's this guy getting ready to do? And I stuck out my hand and I was like, hey man, no harm, no foul, right? You was only doing what you was getting paid to do, right? And he shook I shook his hand and I was like, what am I gonna do? Beat this guy up? I'm fucking over 40 years old. I don't need to do that unless I absolutely have to. I'm not in high school anymore. Hint, hint to some of those out there. Anyway, so I was like, I don't have any idea where I'm at. Can I get a ride back? And he's like, oh, I can't do that. He said, but I'll tell you what, I'll go over there. I was like, I told him, I said, I ain't got my ID. They didn't give me my ID. I said, I don't have a phone or whatever. And he's like, oh, you need to go back over there and get your ID. So now I got to walk another mile down the road to get my ID back from the police department that I was locked up at. They didn't give me a phone call. They wouldn't give me a phone call. I would buzz the thing and they would say, yeah, can I help you? And I'll be like, yeah, you guys just released me. And I would say, I'm from Indiana. I said, I ain't got no way of getting home. I need to use the phone. And they would just leave it there. And I stand there for 30 minutes and nobody would come out. Nobody would fucking give me any of it because I just got out of jail. For what? Who knows what they said about me. But I go back and I get my stuff. And then I see an officer walking around and I try to explain to her what's going on. Still kind of, I don't know, confused as fuck as to what's going on. And so I walk a mile back to where the gas station was, and this cop, he shows up and he gives me my phone. He's like, here, man. He's like, they don't want you. They're leaving without you, man. They're leaving without you. And I'm like, what the fuck? They're just gonna leave me in Tennessee? And my girl went with them and everything, apparently, I don't know what happened. I don't know if she was crying. She said she was crying. I'm sure she was. I have no reason to not believe it. But, I thought it pretty fucked up to be stranded like that for nothing, for something that was not even controllable or whatever. So, now mind you, this story is crazy. So they slam me on the ground, right? I don't get seen by any medical people, none at all. And I got a scrape on my arm from where they slammed me on the pavement. And, being a dude, it's like whatever, it's just a scratch. Well, the next day when I got out and I found out that I wasn't, they was leaving to go back home without me, he gives me my phone with no charger and it's dead. So, now I got to figure out a way to charge it. Plus, on top of this, I've already been on this money making sense or money not making sense thing. So I got my phone shut off and shit. Didn't care, I didn't. It's like the only people who want to call me anyways, people was fucking trying to get money, just bill collectors. That's the only thing a phone was good for at that point. And there was this gas station and a McDonald's and a Walmart that was within a half a mile of each other, and that was all there was in this little podunk town. And so they were kind to me at the gas station. They let me charge my phone a little bit, but I don't have signal, so I let it charge up to about 15%, and then I walk down to McDonald's, use Wi-Fi, start, Wi-Fi calling to try to get a hold of people or whatever, figure out a way home. Mom can't come and get me until the next day. And I was like, my girl said she would come get me, but I kind of upset, that she left me there. I kind of understand her situation, So it's kind of one of them situations that's like never happened before. So how do you respond to that kind of situation? Let me just say that it doesn't matter how long you've known somebody. A person you just met could possibly have better intentions for you than somebody that you've known your whole life. Even your best friends, you know what I mean? Even your, family member type shit. Now, I don't want people to get my statements confused and take them personally, because if you take them personally, it's a personal problem. It's not a problem of mine, because if this resonates with you, there's a reason it resonates with you, and it's not directed towards you. So understand that reason being a reason of your own, and not a reason for me to hurt your feelings or anything to anybody that may get hurt feelings. But if you get hurt feelings, fuck your feelings. I don't give a shit. Anyway, back to where I was. So my mom can't come and get me till the next day. Now it's beautiful outside. I'm in a wife beater and a very thin pair of affliction shorts, and I feel like I'm in like a spiritual court system type thing. I'm fucking around with these fucking Freemason motherfuckers, and they won't leave me alone. And I'm like, bring it on, motherfucker. I don't give a shit. I ain't got nothing to hide. I got a clear conscience, pure intentions. Let's see, what you got? And so about halfway through the day, it starts fucking downpouring, dude. It's like a typhoon, man. Heavy winds, big raindrops, soaking wet. And the only cover I can find is either, underneath the awning of McDonald's, or a little smoker's awning out the side of McDonald's. Now, mind you, this is all around COVID, so Walmart ain't open 24 hours anymore. They close at like 10 or something. So I find myself, kind of like a bum sleeping on this, trying to sleep. Can't sleep. I'm fucking freezing, shaking, shivering. All I got is this beater and shorts on, and I'm soaking wet, trying to stay out of the rain. And and I'm just trying to mind my own, man. I ain't trying to cause any problems or whatever, and then employees come out to smoke, and they're like, who's this guy, this and that, and I try to explain the situation, I don't know what they thought or whatever, but I was out there for a while. I was out there for hours. And then one of the guys was like, hey man, I might have a dirty jacket or something in the trunk or something. And man, you have no idea how much that jacket, if you ever get this video, man, you have no idea how much that jacket meant to me, man. I still got the jacket. It's like a significant memory of mine. Thank you very, very much. You're a kind soul, dude. But anyway, so the next morning, they open up. I was able to go in and get some dry clothes, and my mom come pick me up, and then we drove back home, so on and so forth. Now, I have no idea what's going on. My girl's here. I'm trying to figure out what happened. I don't blame her. I really don't blame her at all. And I don't know if she felt guilty for it or what, but I really tried to get her to understand it was not her fault. And I don't hold it against her still to this day. But then she was going to give me a ride back down to Bloomington for my court. Then I found out I could do it on Zoom, so I did it on Zoom. And, I tried to see doctors to see what was going on with me, and that was my first thing that I said. I was like, I don't know what happened. I'm seeking medical attention now, but you know, it just didn't, it didn't make sense. And she's like, well, I'm gonna need you to come down here and appear in court. I was like, I don't have a way, I don't have any money, I don't have a job, I don't have a vehicle, I don't have this, I don't have that. And she's like, well, I'll give you 60 days instead of 30 days. And like, I'm still not mentally whatever. And so 60 days comes around and I get back on the court thing. And but there's another part to this that I'm skipping out on. So a few days after I'm back, my arm swells up really big, like huge. When I go to the doctor's like, oh, you got a blood infection or some kind of infection. Let's give you some antibiotics or whatever. I'm like, cool, whatever. It's like, you might have to end up going to the emergency room. Well, I go, I take these meds. My arm gets worse. I go back to the place to prescribe the meds. I'm like, I need medical advice. Do I go to the emergency room? And they're all freaking out over my arm, but nobody can give me an answer. Nobody will say, yes, go to the emergency room. And I am just like blown away. I'm asking for professional medical advice. Can you help me, or do I need to go to the emergency room? I'm on antibiotics, and I'm this and that. And they couldn't give me a fucking direct answer. So I was like, fuck it, I guess I don't have to go. And I'm eating, I'm taking the antibiotics and stuff and trying to do whatever it is I can do. And it gets worse. And my girl, she feels overwhelmed. So she goes out of town, or she goes to see family or friend or whatever. I'm sure it's a lot to handle. And I apologize for ever having to put you through any of this. But while she was gone, it's weird. I felt like I was dying, like this body was dying. Started to get like lightheaded, like I was gonna go passing out or something. And I was like, man, I'm by myself. I should probably go over to my sister's and say, hey, if anything weird happens with me, you might want to call the ambulance, get me out of here or whatever. So I go over to my sister's house, explain the situation. I'm pale as fuck. I don't have any color or whatever. And then she asked me, do you want me to call the ambulance? I barely had enough energy to say yes, call the ambulance. Ambulance comes out, takes me to the emergency. They pass me through. I'm sitting in this fucking waiting room. Some other stuff happens while I'm waiting on the doctor, and it was weird, but it's kind of a different part of the story, so I'm not going to get it in. I'm not going to talk about it. But as I'm sitting there and I'm wiping my arm, it kind of like breaks open and all this shit starts fucking falling out of my arm, and it's all nasty and pussy green and shit. And I'm doing my best to keep it off the floor. I run over to the sink and try to get it all in the sink, kind of push it out a little bit or whatever. I grab a napkin and go back and sit down, it eases up. The doctor comes in. Now, mind you, I ain't never met a doctor that had a sense of humor. I don't know if he's joking. He might have been, and might not have been. I don't know. He come in there, he kind of looked at my arm, and he's like, I think we might need to take it at the elbow. And I looked at him, and I was like, I bet you would. And he's like, well, we'll try draining it first and see if that helps.